Nobody saw this coming. The Cleveland Browns, a team desperate for answers at quarterback, just dropped a bombshell on the NFL world, and at the center of it all is Shedeur Sanders. The same Shedeur who was hailed as a future star, the same quarterback who carried Colorado on his back when nobody believed in him, has now been buried on the depth chart as the Browns' third-string option. That's right, not the backup, not the rookie waiting in the wings, but the third man in line, behind a player most people thought wouldn't even make it out of training camp. And if that wasn't enough to rattle the football world, here's where the story takes an even crazier twist. Colin Cowherd, one of the loudest and most consistent voices hyping Shedeur's NFL future, just went on national television and admitted he was wrong. Yes, the same Colin Cowherd who defended Sanders through every doubt, every criticism, every social media storm, suddenly threw in the towel. And he didn't do it quietly. He admitted it in a way that sent shockwaves through the sports media landscape, leaving fans to wonder if this was really the beginning of the end for Deion's son. But let's pause here for a second. If you're watching this, you already know what's at stake. Shedeur wasn't just another rookie prospect, he was the golden boy, the underdog turned headline maker. The quarterback fans were convinced would become one of the biggest steals of the draft after sliding all the way into the 5th round. He was supposed to be the one who silenced the critics, proved the doubters wrong, and forced the league to admit they overlooked him. Instead, we're staring at a reality nobody expected. Shedeur Sanders, third string, with people already writing his NFL obituary before the season has even begun. Now here's the question. How did we get here? How did a quarterback with Shedeur's resume record-setting college stats, highlight reel throws, a reputation for poise under pressure, end up in a situation where he can't even climb to the number 2 spot on a roster that's been a revolving door of quarterbacks for years? How did Colin Cowherd, a man who's built his entire brand on bold quarterback predictions, suddenly flip on the guy he once called a can't-miss talent? The truth is, this story isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about the NFL itself, how teams evaluate quarterbacks, how media hype can spin out of control, and how sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought on the field but inside the minds of coaches, scouts, and decision-makers. Shedeur's situation is exposing a deeper reality about professional football, one that casual fans rarely get to see. And if you think this is just another case of a rookie struggling to adjust, you're in for a shock, because what's really going on behind the scenes could determine whether Shedeur Sanders ever gets the chance to prove himself at the highest level. So buckle up, because what's happening in Cleveland isn't just a depth chart update, it's a drama that could reshape the trajectory of one of football's most polarizing young stars. When the Cleveland Browns released their preseason depth chart, most fans expected some surprises. After all, this is a franchise that's been juggling quarterbacks like playing cards for years. But nobody, and I mean nobody, predicted what they saw next to Shedeur Sanders' name. Listed not as the future, not as the backup, but as the third-string quarterback. Behind Dillon Gabriel, a rookie most analysts believed was undersized for the NFL. Behind veterans who've been shuffled from team to team like journeymen. It wasn't just surprising, it was downright shocking. Think about it for a moment. This is the Cleveland Browns we're talking about. The same team that last season went through 4 different starting quarterbacks, pulling Joe Flacco out of semi-retirement, throwing P.J. Walker into the fire, and hoping Deshaun Watson could somehow stay healthy. They scraped together 11 wins, but only through grit and desperation. If there was ever a team that needed a young, talented quarterback to step up and secure the job, it was Cleveland. And they had one. Or at least, that's what everyone thought when Shedeur Sanders fell into their lap in the 5th round. Fans imagined a Cinderella story, a rookie who'd been doubted, overlooked, and criticized at every turn, finally proving himself on the NFL stage. People talked about how his college numbers, 74% completion, 37 touchdowns, over 300 yards per game, were too good to ignore. They pointed to how he thrived under pressure at Colorado, turning a program in shambles into a national headline practically overnight. If there was one rookie poised to shock the league, it was Shedeur. But instead of a fairy tale beginning, he's starting his career in the shadows. Sitting behind Dillon Gabriel, who came out of Oregon with plenty of questions about his size, durability, and whether his game would translate to Sundays. Gabriel didn't even have the same hype or production in college, yet here he is, leapfrogging Shedeur for the backup job. That's the part that leaves fans scratching their heads. How could a quarterback with Sanders' pedigree get buried so quickly, especially on a team desperate for stability? The truth is, depth charts don't lie. Coaches may use polite words in press conferences, but when they put ink to paper, they show the world exactly where they think players stand. And what Kevin Stefanski just told us is crystal clear. In his system, Shedeur Sanders isn't even close to the top option right now. That's not just a minor setback, it's a brutal message to both Sanders and the fans, who believed he'd take the league by storm. But here's the twist. This decision doesn't necessarily mean Shedeur lacks talent. Instead, it raises a bigger question about fit, opportunity, and whether the Browns ever planned on giving him a real shot. And as you'll see, the answer lies in who spoke up next, none other than Colin Cowherd, Shedeur's biggest supporter, who suddenly admitted he was wrong. For years, Colin Cowherd has built his reputation on bold quarterback takes. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that when he speaks, the sports world listens. He's been wrong before, and he's been right in ways that silenced entire fan bases. This is the guy who called out struggling quarterbacks before anyone else saw it coming. And the same guy who vouched for young players when nobody else dared. And through all the ups and downs of Shedeur Sanders' journey, Colin Cowherd was one of his loudest believers. He went on air and said Shedeur was underdrafted. He defended him through the controversies, through the critics, through the doubts. To many fans, Cowherd was the national voice backing up everything they believed about Sanders, that he wasn't just good, he was special. So when Colin Cowherd sat down in front of the camera this week and admitted, "I was wrong about Shedeur Sanders," the sports world froze. It wasn't some half-hearted casual correction either. It wasn't one of those moments where a talking head shrugs and moves on. No, Cowherd doubled down. He explained in detail exactly why he thought Sanders would succeed, and exactly why he believes now that he may have misread the situation completely. And that's where the sting really hits. Because when Cowherd flips on you, it's not just one man changing his opinion. It's a signal to the entire sports media world that the tide is shifting. Fans who've been riding the Shedeur train suddenly wonder if they were wrong too. Analysts who stayed quiet now feel emboldened to pile on. In a league where narratives can make or break a player before they even step on the field, Cowherd's admission isn't just personal, it's public permission for everyone else to doubt Sanders. But here's where things get even more interesting. Colin didn't say Shedeur lacked talent. In fact, he acknowledged all the numbers, all the highlights, all the jaw-dropping plays Sanders made in college. He admitted he thought Shedeur was bigger, stronger, more accurate on the run than Dillon Gabriel, the very quarterback who just leapfrogged him on the Browns' depth chart. Cowherd still believes those traits matter. What changed wasn't the talent, it was the reality check that every NFL general manager, scout, and coach saw something he didn't. And that's the part fans can't ignore. If Colin Cowherd, a man who makes his living analyzing quarterbacks, missed what the NFL saw, then what exactly is happening behind the scenes? Why are the professionals so hesitant to trust Shedeur when everything on paper screams he should succeed? Cowherd's about-face wasn't just shocking because it contradicted his past words. It was shocking because it revealed a deeper truth. The NFL operates by rules casual fans don't always see. And if Shedeur Sanders can't break through those hidden standards, his career could be in jeopardy before it even begins. On the surface, it makes no sense. Shedeur Sanders was one of the most productive quarterbacks in college football. He completed nearly 3 out of every 4 passes, tossed 37 touchdowns, and averaged more than 300 yards per game, all while playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in the country. He wasn't surrounded by elite NFL-level talent the way other college stars were, and yet he still found ways to shine. If football were judged on stats alone, Sanders should have been a second-round pick at worst. Instead, he slipped all the way into the 5th round. So why did every single general manager, every head coach, and every scouting department in the NFL pass on him not once, not twice, but 4 separate times? The answer is simple, but brutal. The NFL doesn't evaluate players the same way fans or media personalities do. For fans, it's about highlights. It's about the spectacular throws, the clutch drives, the big moments that go viral online. But for NFL scouts, it's about consistency, mechanics, and how well a quarterback fits into a system. While fans saw a playmaker who could turn nothing into something, coaches saw a quarterback who drifted in the pocket, held the ball too long, and sometimes broke the rhythm of an offense. To the casual eye, those flaws looked like creativity. To NFL evaluators, they looked like red flags. This is the cold reality of the draft process. Every year, there are players who dominate in college but don't check the boxes for the pros. Sometimes it's size. Sometimes it's speed. Sometimes it's decision-making under pressure. For Shedeur, it came down to fit and polish. He wasn't seen as the type of quarterback who could step in right away and run a structured, timing-based offense. He was seen as someone who needed the game built around his strengths. And in today's NFL, not every coach is willing to rebuild their system for a rookie, especially one taken in the 5th round. And here's where the story gets even more complicated. Reports suggest that Jimmy Haslam, the Browns' owner, may have nudged his front office into drafting Sanders at all. Think about that for a second. If the decision really came from above, it means the coaching staff and scouting department weren't fully sold on him in the first place. That explains why, the moment he arrived in Cleveland, he was already fighting uphill against a head coach who preferred Dillon Gabriel's style. The NFL evaluation process doesn't care about hype. It doesn't care about family names, college stats, or viral highlights. It's cold, calculated, and often unforgiving. Shedeur Sanders is finding that out the hard way. And as the Browns' depth chart shows, talent alone isn't always enough. But this story isn't finished. Because while scouts and coaches point to Shedeur's flaws, others see untapped potential that could explode if given the right opportunity. Which brings us to the next chapter, the scouting knocks that may have doomed him in Cleveland. When casual fans watch Shedeur Sanders play, they see magic. They see the quarterback who can roll out of the pocket, buy time with his legs, and deliver a rocket across the field that lands perfectly in stride. They see highlight plays that look like something straight out of a video game. But NFL scouts? They're trained to look past the flash and focus on the fine print. And when they break down Shedeur's tape, they see flaws that explain exactly why he's sitting at 3rd string today. One of the biggest concerns is his tendency to drift in the pocket. Instead of stepping up and delivering the ball on rhythm, Shedeur sometimes slides backward, retreating under pressure. To fans, this can look like composure, as if he's just creating more space before launching another deep strike. But to coaches, it's a major problem. Drifting throws off timing, forces linemen to block at awkward angles, and breaks the rhythm of a play. In college, he could get away with it because of his arm talent. In the NFL, where defenses are faster and windows close instantly, it's a recipe for disaster. Another knock is his rhythm, or lack of it. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns' head coach, runs an offense built on timing. Quarterbacks are expected to drop back, hit their step, and deliver the ball on schedule. It's the same philosophy Kyle Shanahan uses in San Francisco and Sean McVay uses in Los Angeles. It doesn't ask for backyard football, it demands precision. Shedeur, on the other hand, is more of an improviser. He thrives when the play breaks down, when he has to make something out of nothing. That style wins fans, but it doesn't win points with a coach who values structure over creativity. Compare that to Dillon Gabriel. Gabriel might not have the arm strength or physical presence of Sanders, but he fits the system. He gets the ball out quickly, stays on rhythm, and doesn't try to play hero ball. For Stefanski, that's gold. It's not about who has the higher ceiling, it's about who can keep the offense on schedule today. And that's why Gabriel jumped ahead of Sanders on the depth chart almost immediately. Greg Cosell, one of the most respected film analysts in the game, broke it down bluntly. Shedeur may have all the tools, but his style doesn't match what Stefanski wants to run. It's not that he's a bad quarterback, it's that he's a bad fit for this specific system. And in the NFL, fit often matters just as much as talent. This is the tough reality facing Sanders right now. He's not being judged purely on ability. He's being judged on whether he can mold himself into a quarterback he's never been a rhythm passer who plays inside the box instead of outside it. And if he can't, the Browns may decide he's not worth the wait. But before you count him out, consider this. Shedeur's response to being named 3rd string was nothing short of powerful. Instead of sulking, he fired back with the kind of confidence that could flip this entire narrative on its head. Most rookies, when they find themselves buried on the depth chart, disappear into the background. They keep their heads down, avoid the spotlight, and quietly hope for a chance. Shedeur Sanders? He's built differently. From the moment news broke that he'd been placed behind both Deshaun Watson and Dillon Gabriel, he didn't hide. Instead, he addressed it head-on, and the message was clear. Doubt me if you want, but you'll regret it. On social media, Sanders fired off posts that quickly went viral. Without directly calling anyone out, he made it clear that he's not shaken by the decision. Phrases like, "pressure creates diamonds," and "they can't stop what's coming" echoed the same confidence he carried in college. For Shedeur, this isn't humiliation, it's motivation. He thrives on criticism. Every time someone labels him overrated, every time a headline questions his future, he uses it as fuel to prove people wrong. Those close to him say this moment has only sharpened his edge. Shedeur Sanders, his father and head coach at Colorado, built an entire career on swagger. He taught his sons to never back down, to embrace the spotlight when others might crumble. That same DNA is now showing in Shedeur. Instead of sulking over his role as QB3, he's leaning into the challenge, reminding anyone who'll listen that patience is part of the process. In interviews, he's been careful not to spark open conflict with the Browns' coaching staff, but the undertone is impossible to miss. Shedeur isn't planning to sit quietly and accept being a backup long-term. He's confident that once he gets reps, his talent will speak for itself. The exact words he used were telling, "I've been doubted before, this isn't new, and every time, I show up when it matters." And let's not forget, this is a player who spent most of his college career under relentless pressure, literally. His offensive line at Colorado was statistically one of the worst in the nation. Shedeur took sacks, hits, and constant criticism, but he still put up video game numbers. That kind of resilience doesn't just vanish. If anything, it makes him more dangerous now that the NFL is questioning him. Fans have noticed too. While some analysts have written him off, his supporters are louder than ever. Hashtags calling for him to start have already trended, and highlight compilations continue racking up views online. To many, the Browns aren't just sleeping on Sanders, they're setting themselves up to regret it. The bigger picture? Shedeur is leaning into the narrative. He's painting himself as the underdog, the overlooked talent who will eventually break through. It's a smart play because the NFL loves a redemption story. And if he gets even one opportunity to prove himself in live action, the buzz could flip instantly in his favor. But here's the twist. While Shedeur is embracing the role of the fighter, there's another layer to this story that could change everything. The massive pressure building on Kevin Stefanski himself. Being labeled a third-string quarterback in the NFL sounds like a career death sentence. For many rookies, it is. Some never climb out of the hole, spending years as clipboard holders until their names fade into obscurity. But for Shedeur Sanders, this moment doesn't feel like the end. It feels like the beginning of the kind of story that fans talk about years later. Why? Because the NFL has always been unpredictable when it comes to quarterback development. Some of the league's biggest stars didn't start out as instant successes. Take Tom Brady, a sixth-round draft pick, who began his career as a backup no one expected much from. Dak Prescott wasn't supposed to start in Dallas until an injury forced him onto the field, and he never looked back. Even Aaron Rodgers spent 3 full seasons behind Brett Favre before he ever got a real shot. What all of them had in common was simple: patience, timing, and preparation. Shedeur now finds himself in that same position. The fact that he's third on the depth chart doesn't erase his talent. It just means he's in a waiting game. Injuries happen, slumps happen, and coaches often reevaluate when their systems stall. The Browns may see Dillon Gabriel as the safer, more system-friendly option for now, but that doesn't guarantee longevity. The NFL is brutal, and backup jobs can flip overnight. One bad stretch of play, one poor preseason showing, or one key injury could push Sanders directly into the spotlight. And let's be clear, when that moment comes, Sanders won't be stepping in cold. He's preparing like a starter. Reports from inside the Browns camp say he's locked in during meetings, studying film relentlessly, and using every rep in practice to prove he belongs. That kind of behind-the-scenes grind often goes unnoticed, but it's exactly what sets apart those who eventually break through. There's also the business side to consider. The Browns invested in Shedeur not just for what he can do on the field, but for what he represents off it. His name brings attention. His presence drives fan engagement. The NFL isn't blind to that value. If he continues to generate buzz while showing improvement, it's only a matter of time before the franchise decides to give him a real shot, whether in Cleveland or somewhere else. The truth is, quarterbacks like Shedeur aren't defined by depth charts in August. They're defined by how they respond to being doubted. And if his history is any indication, Sanders doesn't fold when people count him out, he rises. He's been the underdog before. He's faced tougher obstacles than sitting at QB3, and every single time he's found a way to silence critics. So no, this isn't the end of Shedeur Sanders' story, it's just the first chapter. The question now isn't whether he'll get his shot, it's how explosive things will get when he finally does. At this point, the story of Shedeur Sanders isn't just about stats, depth charts, or media opinions. It's about a bigger, more critical question. Is Cleveland even the right place for him to prove himself? Being stuck behind Dylan Gabriel in a system that prioritizes timing and rhythm over improvisation might be slowing down one of the most dynamic young quarterbacks in the game. Talent alone can't rewrite a rigid offense, and fit can sometimes matter more than raw ability. Think about the history of quarterbacks who thrived once they found the right system. Patrick Mahomes didn't become the MVP of the NFL playing in a system that forced him into rigid reads. Russell Wilson found new life when he switched teams and was given freedom to use his mobility. Tom Brady had the perfect alignment of coaches, teammates, and opportunity to maximize his skill set. Shedeur Sanders at Cleveland is currently facing a system that doesn't play to his strengths, and that raises the question, is the Browns' offense holding him back more than it's helping him? There's also the roster dynamic. The Browns don't usually carry 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, only one of them is realistically going to be displaced. That means the clock is ticking. One mistake, one underwhelming preseason, or one injury could change the pecking order entirely. But it also means that if Sanders does get a shot, it has to be perfect. No drifting, no ad-lib mistakes, just flawless execution. The pressure couldn't be higher, yet it's the kind of challenge that could either break him or make him legendary. And here's the twist. Sometimes leaving a tough situation is the key to unlocking potential. Shedeur might benefit from a change of scenery. A team that values improvisation, mobility, and dynamic playmaking could transform him from a third-string curiosity into a franchise quarterback. Imagine Sanders in a system like Kansas City under Andy Reid, where quarterbacks are encouraged to improvise and make plays outside the structure. Or another offensive-minded coach who can adapt the game plan around him. The possibilities are staggering, and they all hinge on one question. Will Cleveland be the place where his story truly begins, or will he need to find a new home to flourish? And that brings us back to Colin Cowherd's controversial take. Just because he admitted he was wrong about Shedeur's fit in Cleveland doesn't mean he's wrong about Sanders' talent. There's a distinction that's critical to understand. The Browns may not be the right team, but that doesn't diminish the quarterback's potential. Talent like his rarely disappears. It simply waits for the right stage. Ultimately, the bigger question isn't just about where Sanders plays. It's about when he gets the chance to show the NFL who he really is. Because if there's one thing history teaches us, it's that players like Shedeur thrive under doubt. They feed off it. And when the lights come on, when pressure hits, that's when legends are made. The clock is ticking the NFL, and the fans are watching, and soon we'll find out if Shedeur Sanders will rise or if the system will hold him back. So where does that leave Shedeur Sanders? The rookie who was hyped, analyzed, and celebrated before a single NFL snap now sits in a precarious position, buried behind Dylan Gabriel as the Browns' third-string quarterback. At first glance, it seems like a setback. At first glance, it seems like the NFL has already judged him and found him wanting. But if history has taught us anything about football, about the players who rise to greatness, it's that setbacks often mark the beginning of something extraordinary. Think about the stories we know. Tom Brady, a 6th-round pick, had to wait for an opportunity while everyone doubted him. Russell Wilson, overlooked by multiple teams, had to find the right system to thrive. Even Patrick Mahomes needed time to adjust and grow before dominating the league. Shedeur Sanders is entering that same narrative. He's talented, determined, and fueled by doubt, and sometimes that combination produces legends. But the question isn't just about talent, it's about timing, opportunity, and fit. The Browns have a system that prioritizes timing-based, rhythm-driven play, which Dylan Gabriel executes naturally. Shedeur is more of a playmaker, thriving when he improvises and extends plays with his mobility. That difference in style has kept him sidelined, and it highlights a critical truth. In the NFL, fit can matter just as much as talent. One wrong situation, and even the best players can struggle to make an impact. That's where the suspense comes in. The season hasn't even started yet. Dylan Gabriel hasn't taken a single meaningful snap in a regular season game. Joe Flacco is nearing 40. Kenny Pickett is fighting for every inch of respect. Injuries, performance slumps, or one perfect opportunity could flip the depth chart in an instant. And when that moment arrives, Shedeur Sanders could either rise and prove everyone wrong, or he could falter and confirm the doubts. The most intriguing part? This story isn't over because Shedeur's reaction shows he's ready for the challenge. Instead of sulking, instead of pointing fingers, he's embracing the role of the underdog, preparing for the moment when opportunity meets preparation. He's the type of competitor who turns criticism into fuel, doubt into determination, and setbacks into comebacks. And that's exactly why NFL fans, analysts, and rival teams should be watching every move he makes. So here's the cliffhanger. Will Shedeur Sanders get his shot this season? Will he prove that talent and resilience can overcome fit and circumstance? Or will the Browns' system and the clock work against him, leaving him searching for a new home to unleash his full potential? The answer could reshape his entire NFL career, and the league itself may never see a player like him again if it slips away. Here's where you come in. The story isn't complete without your voice. What do you think will happen to Shedeur Sanders? Will he rise to the occasion, or is this the beginning of a long uphill battle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to stay updated on every twist. And keep watching because Shedeur Sanders' NFL journey is only just beginning, and every single game could rewrite everything we think we know. If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.